So here we have FTP and HTTP. FTP means file transfer protocol, where 24/7 a connection is required, and HTTP means hypertext transfer protocol, where it's connectionless. And here FTP is nothing but like LAN connection every time the wire is required for the internet service, whereas HTTP is like a Wi-Fi where there is no particular wired connection required, but the details must be remembered. Okay, for that reason we are using the concept like cookies. We can say HTTP session and URL rewriting and hidden form fields. Okay, but in the industry we are using mostly sessions concept. Okay, and sometimes we use the cookies concept. So these two are the major concepts now. Okay, and how to use this cookies or session concept in our application, that we have to see. Suppose this generic servlet is there and HTTP servlet is there, right? So generic servlet is protocol dependent, whereas HTTP servlet is what? Protocol independent. So for that reason we need this concept to remember the details of the login. So here I'll just open this CMD Java P space Java X dot servlet dot, you can say HTTP session. So what it's saying, it's not recognized, right? So I just have to set the part. Apart from that we have few methods. Okay, so I can search in the Google. We have HTTP session in servlet. Okay, so HTTP session in servlet. So what are the particular details we have? We have these methods known as get ID, get creation time, get last access time, invalidate. Okay, so first of all, these methods like get session boolean, these two things are there which are used to create the object of a session. Okay, apart from this we have get creation time. Suppose if you went to a particular cave, here there once you log in the timer starts, and once you log out it will calculate the amount of session you have logged in and logged out, right? So that creation time, the last access time, the difference between these two gives the amount of time used for the session. Okay, and we have a particular IRCTC like Indian Railway Service, where if you keep idle for 15 minutes it will log out automatically, right? That is because of the sessions itself. Okay, so apart from that, if you want to remove the details from the server, like whatever the username or the password you are trying to store in the server, if you want to remove the values, then we can call a method known as invalidate, which will log out the particular session, you can say. Okay, so before this I just have to create an object of session first of all, right? So how to create the HTTP session object? We need HTTP servlet request object, and we need HTTP servlet response object. Means already we have used the generic servlet, right? So instead of the generic servlet, now we have to use the HTTP servlet. So these two examples will change, where you will be using HTTP servlet. In this HTTP servlet, we have methods like void post, HTTP servlet request and request object, and HTTP servlet response object. Okay, in the same way void get. So post and get, these two things will be there. Here what is the use of post and at what time we have to use get, that you have to understand. Suppose if I just logged in here in this particular profile, like say I'll just call the index.html. So when I give the values, like here I'm giving some value, and after giving the value, when I log in, so what's happening here, the username, the password, everything is visible, right? But in a real-time scenario we won't be seeing all these details, right? These details are not visible. For that reason also we can use this HTTP servlet. Here in HTTP servlet we have post and get. Okay, so when to use the post and when to use the get means, suppose I'm having a form action tag, like in this form action if I just give like dot slash register, okay, and in this we have a method attribute actually. So what is it method attribute? You can say it's nothing but get or post. So if the method attribute is get, in this servlet we just have to override void get. Okay, so here when I'm trying to use this get void get, when we have the method attribute as get, it's mandatory. Okay, both should be same. Now if I'm using the same form action and inside that if I have a particular URL, along with the URL if I have a method attribute like post, in this servlet I have to override the method known as post itself. Say here copy this thing and post it here, right? So if I log in here, suppose if I'm clicking here, I'm just logging like gmail.com and Mahesh. So you're able to see the username and password in the login also, right? So for this application I'll show you a difference between get and post. For registration I'll take get, for login I'll take post. Suppose if I don't have the method get or the method attribute is not there, so by default it will take get as a method attribute. So if you don't mention any method attribute, then we need to use the get as the attribute. So method equals to get, and the by default method attribute is also get itself. Okay, so now I have to extend the class, like here it's not generic servlet now, it's HTTP servlet. If I save this thing, what it's giving? It's giving an error. Just click on the particular servlet and just say enter. So what's happening now? You just imported a particular HTTP servlet package, javax.servlet.http servlet. Alright? So in this the methods are same. Just when I go for the particular HTML, the method attribute is required. Like here we are using the HTTP servlet, and now I have to import the particular HTTP, right? So apart from this, first I have to check the register, or you can say register code, right? I'll open the home.html. Inside that I just have to search registration here, right? So in this we have ID, contact. Apart from the contact, yeah, it's home.html actually. So I have to search for the index.html, right? So in this index.html, now I have to search for the login action or the registration. So the form action is there, and here we haven't mentioned any attribute, right? So if I mention the method attribute as get, okay, save this thing. Here in the register servlet, I have to override the method get, okay. So here in this service, instead of service, I have to override the get method, where it has a parameter known as HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. So if you just click here, Eclipse IDE will import the particular response package. In the same way, it will import the servlet request package, right? So now I need to call a particular method attribute as post also. Like here I have to give the method attribute as post inside the login. So form action, we have a particular method. That method attribute is post. So I'm just showing you the difference between get and post. So I have to go for that particular login servlet. So here instead of service I have to write post. HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. Again I have to import the two packages, right? Now save this thing, close it. I just want to restart the server to execute it, right? So right click and just say run as, run on server, finish. Restart the particular server. So what we are having the registration login, right? Now if I have a particular registration like the value @gmail.com, so what's it saying? HTTP method get is not supported by this URL. When this particular error will be coming? When the action attribute is different and the method whatever you're overriding is different. Like suppose in register servlet I have overridden get, and in the index.html I have taken the method attribute as get itself, right? So once we'll check it by cleaning the project, like clean all projects, just click OK. It'll take some time. Or else refresh this thing. So if you want to check out, like right click, and is it possible? No, here you are able to take this thing, right? Copy this and just pasting it here. Some password. So here we are getting the error, the same error known as HTTP servlet request. So I just have to check the code once, right click, say view page source. In that we have the if you can see this, the code is not modified. When I just gave this dot slash register and I'm giving the action method as attribute, like method as get in the index.html, it's not getting modified, right? So you can solve this thing by removing the cache. Actually cache memory will be there. So in this I'll clear the history once and check it. Okay, so clear the browsing data for the past hour, clear. So I just have to verify whether that code is affecting or not. So here just action tag. Now you can see the method get has been implemented, right? And here in the register servlet I just happen to override the get method itself. Okay, so I just want to restart that server. So run on server and just say finish, restarting the server. Right, so copy this thing in the browser, paste this particular part, and here I am giving some HTTP method get is not supported by the URL. Well, we see login first, like say shiva@gmail.com. HTTP method post is not supported by this URL. Just try to change this thing. Shiva@gmail.com. Shiva. The method post is not supported by this URL. Method equals to get and method equals to post. Here it extends HTTP servlet. We have the object HTTP servlet request, servlet response. I just have to check it once. What's going on? Method equals to post and method equals to get. It's properly written.
Do we need to do anything in servlet mappings?
No, not required actually. Yeah, actually it's not get and post, it's do get and do post. I just forgot the method names. So here it will be like do get, okay, and here it will be like do post. So index we have to check it properly again, like say post method equals to post and method equals to get is there for the do get, right? So for the registration servlet it's do get and for login servlets it do post. So right click again and just saying run as, finish. Here I'm just giving these details again. Um, you can see that username, password, everything is visible, okay? But if I log in now, say ram@gmail.com and ram. Now there is no username and password visible. What is the difference it makes? Here we have seen HTTP servlet get is used. Means in doGet the values are getting posted onto the address bar. Okay. So instead of using doGet you can use doPost if you want to hide the particular password details. I'll just make it as post and save this thing in the index. I just have to change the particular value from form action get to post. Okay, save this particular part. Next, I'm just restarting the server to make sure the code is getting affected. Now here I just have to give the values again. So next, you can see that now the details are not being showed here, right? And if you log in also, the details will not be shown. So that's the difference between post and get. Mostly in the industry we can follow this post when you're logging or when you're registering. Okay, so here these particular details, when I click profile, so it's going to the profile.jsp. Like here all the details like Shiva, Prakash, Mahesh, Ram and Kiran, all the details are getting displayed. So how to overcome this? We have to use a concept known as session. Session in the sense we need a request object to call the particular session method. Like here you can see, to create the session object we need the get session method. The get session method present inside the HTTP servlet request. Return type is HTTP session. So returns the current session associated with the request. Okay. So we have to call this get session method. Means inside this I'll just call request dot get session. Okay. And the return type will be HTTP session. HS equals to request dot get session. Now along with the get session we have a method like set attribute. Means HS dot set attribute of the values. What value you can say username, and whatever the username you got from the field. Like here string, we can say username, right? That username is nothing but like request dot get parameter. Like here username will be there. Okay. Now here username retrieved from the database, like from the HTML, is given to the session like set attribute. Okay, this value is getting stored, and now in this servlet 2, this is inside the servlet 1, right? Servlet 1 we have. In servlet 2 what you have to do, again the object must be created because I want to access the details, and this set attribute, whatever you are storing will be stored in the server memory. Okay, so HTTP session, you can say HS or anything. Next request dot get session, and here we have to call a attribute like get attribute of the username, like whatever you have given here. Suppose if you have given here name, use name here. Okay, and what is the return type of get attribute? Get attribute is nothing but like it's a return type known as object. So the return type of get attribute is object. So again I have to convert that into string, right? For that reason, like string name equals to, like we have to convert this object to string. This is known as downcasting, converting that particular superclass object to subclass object. Okay, and upcasting you already know, superclass reference can store the subclass object. Now these things we have to implement in our particular code. Like sessions we have used, here I have to go for the login first. When the login details are true, when this particular rs.next is true, then I'll directly say HTTP session HS equals to request dot get session, right? So you can see here the get session return type is session, HTTP session. Use a semicolon. But we need to import the package, right? So just click and import the package. Now I have to call a method known as hs dot set attribute. You can see here set attribute. This one is string argument, this is object. Okay, so just click this thing, and here I'm giving the name as name. Here what is required, email. So that email is the particular thing which I am trying to store in the name. Okay, and once it's done, I want to retrieve this value in the servlets, not in the, sorry, I want to retrieve this value in the JSP, not in the servlet. Already we know that a session object has been there, like implicit 9 objects are there. Among that, session is one of the object. Like here, while calculating, like retrieving the values from the database, I want to retrieve the value from the session. Like I just call session dot, here you can see that directly I got the methods get attribute, and if you see the get attribute return type, like suppose session dot, so the get attribute return type is what, object, right? And here just click on the get attribute object, that is name, which we have retrieved, which we have stored in the login server, and just take the string and say name, your email. Okay, give it. But here if you save this thing, you are getting error. What it's saying, that session dot get attribute. I'll just change this particular thing here to string. Now you're not getting any error because get attribute return type was object. Here you can see that object, and that object is converted into string now. Okay, now what is this? In this select star from architect, where email equals to, just give the particular placeholder. Okay, and in this placeholder ps dot set string of 1 comma email, given the details. Store this thing, save it. Now I have to restart the server, right? Run on server, next, and finish. When you restart the server, copy this particular method here, save it. Already we have registered. I'll try to log in. Suppose if I say ram@gmail.com, and I'll say ram. You got that login, right? When I click profile, when I want the profile, you can see only ram details is coming. Okay, that is the advantage of sessions. And here if the session value is not there, means that page is not accessible, right? So the same thing, suppose if I log in into Facebook, like here I've logged into Facebook, right? And if I'm opening another page also, like here suppose I'm opening the profile, right click and open a new tab. So what's happening here? you are able to get that particular details, right? Why it didn't ask the username and password again? Why it didn't ask the login? Because already the details are stored in the server. For that, you can get the ID here. You can see this is the session ID. So for this session ID, the details are stored. The same way here also, for sessions, you'll be having an ID. Like you can say the get ID. If you call this get ID method, you can retrieve the unique identifier value, the ID value. Suppose I logged out here, like ఒక పేజ్ నుంచి లాగౌట్ చేస్తున్నాను నేను. Okay. Now can I access the other page? Here if I click it, if I want to open another page, what's it saying?
No.
Directly say login, right? ఇది మన అప్లికేషన్ లేదు ఇప్పుడు, ఎందుకంటే ఇప్పుడు నేను ఇక్కడ లాగౌట్ చేసినా సరే the values will be there, right? Suppose if I open this like index.html, అలా కాకుండా నేను డైరెక్ట్లీ profile.jsp అనే ఓపెన్ చేస్తాను. డైరెక్ట్ ఒక పేజ్ ఓపెన్ చేయగానే మీకు ఆ పేజ్ ఓపెన్ అయిపోతుంది, రైట్? బికాజ్ ఇంతకుముందు స్టోర్ చేసిన డీటెయిల్స్ ఇన్వాలిడేట్ అవ్వలేదు, అంటే లాగౌట్ అవ్వలేదు. సో టుమారో విల్ సీ హౌ దిస్ పర్టికులర్ సెషన్ యాక్యురేట్లీ వర్క్స్, లైక్ ఎలా ఈ సెషన్ని మనం మొత్తం అప్లికేషన్ ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయాలి. ఒకవేళ వాల్యూ లాగౌట్ చేస్తే ఇట్ షుడ్ నాట్ డిస్ప్లే ది పేజ్ అగైన్, ఇట్ షుడ్ ఆస్క్ ది యూజర్ నేమ్ అండ్ పాస్వర్డ్. ఓకే, so that we can see tomorrow. And today what you have to do, change your application from generic servlet to HTTP servlet, and remember that do post will not display any values, username, password in the address bar, whereas do get displays them. ఇది నేను మీకు ప్రాక్టికల్గా చూపెట్టిన ఎగ్జాంపుల్. బట్ అపార్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ దిస్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ డిఫరెన్సెస్ ఆర్ దేర్ in do get and do post. This is the major one. Okay, and the last thing will be the sessions, where you are creating an object and storing the value, and that value you are retrieving in the JSP or any other servlet you can retrieve, or any other JSP page you can retrieve them. Okay, so now fine. So till now is it clear?
Yes.
Right. So next you convert that application of yours into generic servlet,